All right, I'm Jason Holtz. I've been a guild member, I think, since 2005 when I returned to these parts from Chicago after doing my apprenticeship with Jeff Miller. And yeah, so I've been involved with the guild since then. Here is a walnut table that I built, actually as a spec piece a number of years ago for the Art of the Grain exhibit that a group of us did at Art-A-Whirl, which took place in a tent in the Youngblood parking lot the first year. And I ended up selling this table, and then I got to build a matching bench to go with it. And I was recently contacted by the customer who's building a brand new house. And he says, I love my table, but it's too small for the new space. Can you build me a new one? And I said, sure. So we picked out some wood, and house is going to be done in December. And he just asked me if I wanted to try to sell this for him. So it was delivered here this week, and I'm sprucing up the finish and trying to find it a new home. So kind of a unique opportunity to get to sell something twice. All right, this is a production gig that I have for a company called Sisyphus, which is a local Minneapolis company started by a guy named Bruce Shapiro. So what this thing is a CNC Zen garden, essentially. So the tables come in 3 different sizes, and what my job is, I take this MDF blank that they provide me with, and I apply veneer to the bottom, the top, and the edges. And top and bottom are done in the veneer press. 16 pieces of veneer or 20 pieces of veneer, depending on the diameter, pressed all at one time. And then these edges are just done with clamps and cawls like this. 1 segment at a time. There's either 4 or 5 segments per hoop. And I've been making these for, I guess, probably 4 or 5 years for them. And they're a lot of fun. So this is a pair of dining tables being built by guild member Craig Gents. They are African mahogany, and they are both destined for Phoenix in a few weeks. So this is a quarter-sawn white oak kitchen being built by Lori McKeegan, and this kitchen actually goes in, if anybody knows the Point of France condominium in Edina. It's a probably 70s or 80s vintage building, and it's very weird and angular, and there's lots of 45-degree walls in it. But he's a really good customer for Lori, and she has replaced every piece of trim, door, bathroom vanity. She built custom closets, all in quarter-sawn white oak, very arts and crafts style. And this will be the crown jewel. It's the final piece for the whole place, I believe. And yeah, it's the last of her stash of quarter-sawn white oak from Youngblood. And it's all quarter-sawn interior. The drawer boxes are quarter-sawn. She's building custom rollout filler things for places that are awkward spaces that you can buy a ready-made solution for, but it's pre-finished. maple plywood, and that just wouldn't look right. This is Richard Helgeson's space. He's currently working on dining chair prototype and a church project, and building a new storm door for his house. So this is Steph Luneski, Lefty Designs space. She's working on a giant project off-site, making 60 tables for a wedding venue. And there's our collection of very deep jaw clamps, which you don't need very often, but when you need them, you need them. Ready? This is a space of Jake Brown, also known as Platypus Builds. Jake's working on various things, a bunch of which is a product line he's developing. He's wanting to do art fairs and kind of have a line of things that he builds rather than doing custom work all the time. I met Jake at Northern Woods 2 years ago. Oh, that's the year I was a judge, and I gave Jake my judge's award for his chair that I really liked. This corner is the domain of Dick Schultz. We didn't really have a space when he came to us and sold his house and no longer had his basement shop. And he wondered if we had any room for him, and we made some. So this is where he likes to hang out, spend part of his retirement. He's been really into turning for the last couple of years, and he's also working on some green and green inspired side tables. All right, this is Jason's slab storage area. Starting it off here with what is left of John Nessett's mythic ash log. You probably all remember his bench that's at the Phipps Gallery in Hudson, Wisconsin. That was made from, I think, slab 1 of this log. And when John's Parkinson's advanced to the point where he knew he had to hang it up, he had a wood sale, and I was the lucky buyer of this beautiful ash, and I've made some really nice things from it. And I think these are the 2 biggest slabs that are still awaiting their dream project. And then I have oh man, you gotta see this. This is red gum eucalyptus, which I picked up on a delivery out to Oakland, California. I built a dining table for a guy out there and drove it out there, and I got to go to an amazing lumber yard there, and, I picked up a pair of these slabs. And I built a desk for a lawyer a couple years ago with the first one, and still waiting for the next one. And then I have, what do I have? I have 65-year-old air-dried walnut that was customer supplied that I just built a piece with 3 other slabs. And then I have big, huge ribbon stripe African mahogany for my future guitar building endeavors. And some other random things, elm burl slabs from a neighborhood tree, and some olive wood, and all kinds of goodies.
So who processes for you guys? Do you send it to a mill to process?
I work mostly with Brian at Holtz2 Lumber down in Hastings. If you haven't been there, you should go. He's the best sawyer and dryer around. And emphasis on the drying, because the guy knows what he's doing, and you know, you can use giant slabs like this, and they won't have an end check on them. Yeah. Yep. All right, this is our 20 horsepower Oneida Cyclone dust collector. It unfortunately only collects to the one 35-gallon fiber drum, but the nice thing about it is that even when it's full, anybody in here can empty it by themselves. If we had a 55-gallon drum under there, that would be a little more challenging. And then it's got the 4 filters, which each have a fines bin at the bottom, and we have a regular monthly maintenance procedure where we knock all the stuff out of the pleated filters and then empty the fine bin at the bottom, which there's plenty of since it's sitting 2 feet from the 43-inch SCMI wide belt sander. This thing being 20 horsepower, it's not the motor that's loud, it's all the air that it's moving that really makes the noise. And those 4 filters are attached to a plenum, which is like well, it's a big sheet metal drum essentially. Well, it's a box, but it acts as a drum because there's a big flat reverberating surface on the top, which we actually have a rubber mat on top of it, and a 2x4 wedging it to the ceiling so it doesn't vibrate as much as it could, which helped. But yeah, all this foam baffle is an effort to make it a little bit quieter, and it is. But this machine replaced a prior 3-horse Oneida Cyclone and a 5-horse Clearview. So total of 8 horse. But when the sander got upgraded from 37 inches to 43 inches, the old dust collection was then insufficient. So it was quite a snowball. And this is a lot louder than the predecessors were. Do we want to hear it? Sure. All right, here we go. It's not deafening, but I don't want to work around it without earmuffs. Or we measured it, I think, as like 86 decibels or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, and then we have 2 ambient air cleaners, which we run mostly when somebody's doing something particularly offensive. If they're power carving or something like that, or because most of the tools collection is pretty good, because that's a lot of CFM. Yeah. And it's on a remote system, so everyone has their own little key fob to start and stop it, and you know it almost never runs, you know, it never runs all day. You know, in big shops, they turn it on in the morning and turn it off when they go home at the end of the day. You know, it's very intermittent in here. You know, if somebody's milling wood, it'll run for a couple hours, but you know, other than that, I bet it comes on, I don't know, 100 times a day. Somebody turns it on for 30 seconds and turns it back off. So. Because we still do a lot of handwork. All right, this is SCMI single head 43-inch sander. It's a dream machine. We love it. It's still occasionally too narrow, but not too often anymore. The 37 proved to be a limiting factor for me pretty often, and that's why I decided to upgrade it. And I'm an auction hound, and I found what I thought was a pretty good deal on this, and it's been a really good machine.
Can you crack it open?
I can. It looks like the space shuttle in here. It's pretty awesome. I don't know what any of that stuff is other than the switch. And knock on wood, none of it has ever needed serviced.
Yeah.
Yep. And if anybody has a wide belt that needs tuning, there's a local guy named Chris Peterson, Comprehensive Repair. He's the wide belt tech for the entire Midwest. And he knows his stuff. And if you can get him to come out,
Not cheap.
I think a 23 horse motor, single head, 75-inch belt. It's a little dirty in there right now, but and it's got a platen for veneer sanding. And yeah, it'll eat up anything you throw at it, especially if you put a 60 grit belt on or something like that. Okay, this is Sanderland. We've got the baby edge sander, the 12 or however big that disc sander is. Then we have the mother of all edge sanders, the Ekstrom Carlson 112A, circa 1935 or something like that. It weighs 3,200 pounds, I think. 7.5 horsepower direct drive, 3-phase motor, obviously. The thing is a beast. I bought that on auction, of course. It's an 8-inch belt machine, but wherever it lived its prior life, they ran a 6-inch belt on it for way too long because the platens are cast iron, but they were badly grooved from a 6-inch belt. So I did some searching around town and found the I think only Blanchard grinder big enough to flatten those tables, which I think are 59 inches long. And at some point, I don't know if you can see, this is an extension above the 8-inch belt part. So you could run a 10-inch belt easily on this machine, and this is 1.5 inch by 2-inch solid bar stock that's drilled and tapped onto the main table. And so I left those on there when the tables went out to be ground, so the whole thing is dead flat. And it's just a dream machine. And it's one of the most used machines in this shop. We all do custom work and lots of curves and tapers and bevels and the other great thing is with a platen that long, it's perfect for seaming veneer. And it does that all the time. And it oscillates. It needs lubed at the moment, I can tell. But if this is a 2-sided machine, it has identical platens and tables on both sides. And then that end table adjusts in like 4 different directions for compound angles and stuff like that. And both main tables tilt both directions also. But on the opposite side of the machine, there's a pair of cast iron doors. And behind those doors looks like something right off of a steam locomotive. It's a giant wheel and an arm that is responsible for that oscillation. And the whole mechanism it's moving must weigh 1,500 pounds because it includes the motor. And I had to take it all apart once. It was fun. And then we have the little baby spindle sander, which also gets lots of work around here. So that is the Felder 540 bandsaw, 21-inch equivalent, I think. That is basically our dedicated resaw. We've got this amazing feeder and pressure module, and this thing is this is a sandpaper belt, and that's what does the feeding, and this provides the pressure right in front of the blade, and this thing adjusts for keeping the proper pressure on it while you're resawing. And our blade of choice is a 1/2-inch wood slicer. I think we get them from Highland Hardware. They are Oh, probably a quarter or a third the cost of a carbide blade, thinner kerf, and they cut every bit as well in our experience. And you know, you can buy 3 of them for the price of a Lennox TriMaster, and waste less wood. So we like them a lot. All right, we've got 14-inch Laguna saw for just general purpose stuff. It usually has a 3/8 blade on it, and it'll do some light resawing also. And then the 10-inch Baby Rikon, which has like a quarter or an 1/8 blade on it for tighter curves, and that little saw's a champ. All right, here are our 2 Felder KF700 saw shaper combo machines. One belongs to Richard, one belongs to Craig. They are identical machines, including the year 2001, I think. So these are about 80-inch stroke on the sliding table. This machine is most often used as a shaper. It's a tilting head shaper, and it's got a big fence back there on a cart. And then we've got the cabinet full of all the shaper tooling and accessories. And its twin over here is our main saw for cutting solid wood, really. Cross-cutting furniture parts, and since the stroke is not long enough for plywood sheets, unless you move the fence to the front position, which is a little bit of a hassle, and a hassle we don't need to make since we have a much bigger saw right around the corner. But those are very, very precise machines, and they have optional scoring blades too, and we have pneumatic clamps, which I built. They're not connected at the moment. Clamps can be moved to whatever position they need to be, and actuated by a switch. And they're great for making all things safer, since you don't have to have your hands anywhere near the blade because something else is holding the work. Yep.
Do you guys have a blade that you use for all saws, or do you kind of switch them out, preference?
We have a variety. The Forest Woodworker 1, I think, is kind of our general purpose,
Crosscut?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Although we don't do much ripping on these machines because we still have the saw stop over there. Ripping is a little bit of a different game on a slider. Most of us prefer to still rip on the other traditional cabinet saw or the bandsaw. And we have different blades that we use over there too. All right, this is the Hans sliding table saw, also made in Austria like the Felders. This machine is, I think, 1985. Came out of a cabinet shop in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I've had it about 10 or 12 years maybe. It's got 10-foot stroke, so you can rip 8-foot plywood. You can straight line rip lumber up to like 11 feet long on it. It is super bare bones. There's no electronic anything on it. I like it that way because there's nothing to break. Unlike the Felders, we had to replace a switch. That's the only thing it's needed done the entire time I've had it. Also have another set of pneumatic clamps, 7.5 horsepower motor, separate scoring motor. This is where we cut all plywood, veneered plywood, and it does plenty of solid woodwork also. It will take up to a 16-inch blade, which means it can cross-cut almost 5 inches, and that comes in very handy for big miters on occasion. And the cross-cut fence there is fixed position. It's 90 degrees all the time and always 90 degrees, which is amazing because you never have to worry about it because no one ever moves it to a different position. It actually has a different fence for doing angled work, which has never even been on the machine, to my knowledge. All right, so this is another workhorse of this shop. It is a 5-foot by 10-foot vacuum bag veneer press from VacuPress in Maine, and this is one of their zipper bags. So this bag has a zippered seam on 3 sides, one continuous zipper. So what it allows you to do is prepare your work on this table, and then just flip the bag over the top and zip it up. Whereas most people that do any veneering are used to a bag that is a tube essentially, and it has a closure on both ends. But that means you have to slide your work into the end of the bag, and that is difficult at best, and especially if you have critical positioning, and then you're moving something that you just applied glue to, and it's hairy. And this is a much better system. An even better system is one like this without a zipper, but it has a frame that is hinged on one of the long sides, and then you close the frame and it has some sort of buckles, or I don't know what they're called, but fasteners that make the seal. And so we do flat and curved veneer work in here. We have an entire library of bending forms, which we'll get to in a little bit. So your bending form will go on the table, and then your veneer and substrate on top of that. And for extreme curves that won't work with the platen, we will take the form and the work, and so the bag wraps all the way around the piece, like U-shaped curves and that sort of thing. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, opens lots of possibilities if you know how to do veneer. So we have a timer on here. And then we have another vacuum just to evacuate the air quicker. So that pump will run until it reaches the specified pressure we have it set to, and then it'll just turn off and cycle on and off as necessary. But, I mean, that's only 15 inches of mercury, and we generally run it around 20 or 22. Yeah. It'll smash whatever you put in there. And like, if you're veneering the top side of something and the veneer is up, you need to make a call to protect the edges of the veneer, because you don't want to cut the veneer right to the size of your substrate, so you have to oversize it a little bit. But if your call is too much oversize, the bag will break it right off. All right, so this is the bending form library. We save these things because they're such an investment of time and materials also, in the hopes that, you know, maybe I'll get to make that piece again, or you know, that curve might be good for, you know, a chair back or something like that. So there's a lot of curves here that are similar, like these three here, you know, but they're all slightly different, and but we do a lot of bent laminated work, so we build these things and we hang on to them, and they do get used over again. Maybe not all of them, but it's good if you don't have to make a new one every single time. And you have to build these things really strong, because the pressure of the vacuum is so strong that it can crush a poorly made bending form. I've seen it happen. And if it doesn't crush it, you can see the ribs on here are spaced about 1.25 inches apart, with a 1/4 inch skin on top. If they were further apart, you would get a scalloping effect between each rib. That's why a lot of the forms may have fewer ribs, but they'll have, say, a 1/2 inch skin on top, or a couple layers of 1/4 or 3/8. Yeah, it's kind of a science learning how to build these things. And this is the saw stop. Everyone probably recognizes this thing as more people might have one of these in their garage or their basement. But this is a very early model that we actually bought from American Woodworker magazine when they were acquired and closed up their shop. And yeah, we found out that it's different from the new machines. we had to replace the main switch there, and when they sent us one, it ended up not working, and we had to replace some control panel inside. It was like back in the prototyping stage almost. but yeah, most of the ripping that we do here in the shop is done on this, just because that's what we're used to. And you can rip on the pan hands slider, and I actually do it there for most of my plywood case parts and things like that. But if you have room for a slider and a traditional cabinet saw, I always advocate for having both. This is the General 880 16-inch joiner, made in Canada, formerly owned by the U.S. Navy. Found this on auction, and Richard and I bought it together. It came with a straight knife, 4-knife head on it, and we ended up swapping that for a bird spiral head once we got a spiral head planer, and it became very apparent that straight knives were no longer welcome in the shop. They stopped making this machine when they ceased all Canadian production. But the last one they had on their website, I don't know, 10 years ago when I looked at it, was selling for $21,000. Still too narrow on occasion. All right, this is the Oliver 290 itch head planer. That stands for insert tooth carbide helical. This machine was built in 1978, so kind of a late model Oliver. Its spiral head is very different from the bird and all the other indexable head spirals that most of us are familiar with. In this machine, it still has a 4-sided knife, but the knife is inserted into a slot that kind of like the gib on a straight knife machine. The knife is oriented in the same way as a straight knife is, but in a spiral. And then this machine has onboard sharpening. So this is the bar the grinder mounts to, and it's got a diamond wheel grinder, and there are 14 teeth in a row, and I think there's 7 rows. Sharpening it it was quite a learning curve, because there's a little there's a foot on grinder mounting that follows the back of the tooth to index it, and there's lateral adjustment in this foot that determines how much is ground off of each corner of each knife. And if you don't get it just right, you end up with all these striation lines, which you don't want. But I figured it out. And the good news is, even in a shop with 6 people, I think we went 2 years between grinding.
Okay, that's great.
And it was still performing pretty well, except on the gnarliest figured wood. So, yeah. And that's 24 inches wide and will plane up to 8 inches thick. Weighs 2,900 pounds. All right, here we have our 2 dueling one-ways. The 2436 is the biggest machine one-way makes. And I believe this one, the 0160, I think that's the smallest one they make now. They previously made a smaller one, which I had, which I sold when I acquired the big guy, which was also on auction, and it was brand new, never used, and I got it for about half the cost of a new one.
That's how it's done.
Yes. And it's just a fantastic machine, and you know, but you can spend as much money on accessories and tooling as as you did on the machine, so it's a slippery slope. But Dick and I are the main 2 turners. We also have the Vega lathe duplicator up there on the wall for the big lathe, and that's been used quite a few times for sort of spindle and table leg sort of jobs where multiples are required.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a really simple thing, and you just make a 1/4-inch MDF template, but it roughs it out like nobody's business, and they're all identical, and you just have to clean them up then.
Save some time.
And it came with the machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been having fun trying to learn to turn bigger things, and I'm currently working on that big birch burl that's sitting below it. And big things that aren't round even.
You got turning tools too? Are those in?
Yeah, turning tools are mostly in this cabinet over here. Turning tools. Carbide turning tools. And then we have, this little one is set up with a vacuum chuck system. And then we've got other chucks and jaws and the always necessary super glue. Oh, and we have the one-way coring system. That's for making blanks out of the inside of a bowl. So instead of turning all that inside of your bowl to chips on the floor, you get nested bowl sets.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we Dick and I just did a private lesson with Dan Larson, specifically on how to use that system, and we had some really big box elder, and I actually just took the biggest bowl home. I think it's 23 inches in diameter and about 10 inches tall. And we got 4 smaller bowls out of the center of it. This is our router table, which was designed and built by Mr. Richard Tendick. I think it was for an article written for American Woodworker, and somehow we ended up with it. Up and down adjustment here on the top side. It's got a nice fence and T-track system, movable jaws, and top flips open, and it's very dirty in there, but it's a good old Porter Cable Speedmatic adjustable 3-horse router, and yeah, Richard's ingenious up and down mechanism with Acme screws and linear rods, and who the hell knows what else is in here. Yep. These are inflatable drums. Mostly contour sanding and things that you don't particularly want to keep crisp, flat surfaces on. We also have the rolling pin sander, which is used in similar fashion to that, but handheld rather than a stationary thing. Richard built that machine. And then we've got, this is our line boring station for shelf pin holes. We finally found a dedicated spot to leave it set up all the time, which we never had that luxury in previous shops. And it was always quite a bit of work to get it set up and confirm that everything was even with 2 rows of holes. And then underneath it we have all of our communal router bit storage. And then general just shop maintenance kind of tools and sockets and tap and dies and set up dial indicators and that sort of thing. And the controller for the big ass fan.
Very scientific.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we installed that to help with heat stratification in the winter and the summer, actually. But yeah, we run it at about 40 RPMs, and you can barely feel the air moving in here, but it'll go up to like 90 RPMs, and it's you can definitely feel that. Yeah. Is the chair maker's dream tool. It's designed primarily to cut mortise and tenons. And it will also do compound angled tenons.
Does do both the, there's no way it can do both the mortise and the tenon at the same time?
Not at the same time, no.
Okay, yeah.
Nope. No, you spend 5 to 10 minutes setting up for a joint, and then you cut one part or 200 parts, and it's not that much different time. And it has this template system. It's got one for box joints and round tenons and smaller round tenons and yeah, it's the fastest, most precise way to do so many things. I think that machine now is about $4,000. Unless you spend 10 times that money, you can't make mortise and tenons any faster. Although the domino has been kind of a game changer, but you can do things on here that you can't do on the domino.
Is it just one?
We can make brass and aluminum parts on here. You can't do that on a Festool domino. Anytime you're in a weird bind and need to figure out how to do something, this is the answer. Almost always. And it's just having one and getting familiar with what it can do and how you hold the work on it to accomplish what you need to do. Yeah, it's just a great thing. We have 2 of them actually. Yeah. So this is a Jet overhead pin router, and new acquisition for me, largely to facilitate my guitar building adventures. But it's a very versatile machine. Not many people use these things or even know how to use them, and I'm still figuring it out myself. But what it really excels at is template work, especially where you need to cut pockets or route out things like the F-hole on a guitar or the pickup cavities or neck pocket or control cavities for the wiring access and things like that on the backside. But it's a lot more capable than that, and I haven't even gotten to explore half the stuff that I've seen that this machine can do. But essentially, it's a router that is up, and it has a turret depth stop system here. So I have 6 different possible depth positions. It's controlled by a foot switch, and right here is the table pin, and most often you're using a pin that matches your bit diameter size. So imagine it like a flush trimming router bit with the bearing on the end. That is essentially what this is. But what it's allowing you to do is cut partway through things, and to do it in step depths in a very controlled way, because this is a cavity I made for hollow body Telecaster. That goes there, and your Telecaster body goes on top of this, usually double stick tape or super glue and masking tape. And the whole head of this machine goes up and down. So first you set your final depth, and then you just step down until you get there. And it's genius.
Yeah, okay, so then you move the workpiece once it's attached about
Yep.
the pin.
Yeah, so you're just following the pin. Sort of like a router table, but in reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And short of CNC cutting all of these sort of pockets and cavities and recesses, it's the fastest way. Yeah. And this was owned by a machinist, and he overhauled the whole thing, and it purrs like a kitten, and it's just a joy to use it. I was excited to get more into it and find other things I can do with it. And it's on wheels. I can just push it in the corner when I don't need it. Yeah.